Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Silent Generals. We thank God for all that He has been doing. It's been an amazing year for us. We've been gifted with special individuals that God has connected us with, and we've been able to glean wisdom from their story, from their life, and all that God is doing with them. Today on this edition, I have such a special guest, and you'll be meeting him in earnest. And we'll be sharing together within the hour his story, his triumphs, and the wisdom that he has gleaned in his life journey. Welcome to Silent Generals. I'm Frederick Adetiba, and with me today is Mr. Frederick Adetiba. I'm just going to do the honor of reading a little bit of his profile to us before we kick the ground running. So Mr. Frederick Adetiba is a transformation specialist, life and relationship advisor, social reformer, management consultant, and author. He helps individuals, businesses, and organizations navigate internal transformation so that they can be repositioned for success and impact. He holds a diploma in social work for development and a BSc in sociology from the University of Jos, Nigeria. A master's degree in sociology from Stellenbosch University, South Africa, and a professional diploma in human resource management. He is also a certified marriage mentor from the Institute of Marriage and Family Affairs, United States. His career journey and experience cut across administration, human resources, resources administration, finance functions. He has understanding of personal transformation, business and organizational development, as well as nation building. Mr. Frederick is a managing partner at Kappa and Omega Company, a management consulting firm, and executive director of Feast Africa, an NGO that is committed to providing interventions for social transformation in Nigeria and across the continent of Africa. He also leads as the pastor of the Finishing Church Abuja, a Reformation Kingdom community that is committed to raising a new breed of believers for manifestation and the return of Jesus Christ. His published books include Emerging Remnants, The Finishing Army, Faith and Governance, Politics and Spirituality in Nation Building, 40 Life Lessons at 40. He's married to the beautiful, delectable, and firebrand Kemi Fred Adetiba, also known as Lady Kems, and they are blessed with two wonderful children, Jadel and Jason. We're happy to connect with you today, and today we'll be having the honor of sharing with Mr. Frederick Adetiba on his story, his life journey, the lessons he has gleaned, and the wisdom that he has been taught along the way. So you're welcome very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's a pleasure, sir. So we want to just go straight into it. But we'll first start by asking you, beyond the profile, who is Mr. Fred Adetiba? So just a little bit of introduction of yourself.
Okay. I would say what you didn't see in the profile that you just read, Frederick Adetiba is a son of God. Most importantly, I am a son of God. I am a lover of God as well. I am a lover of God, and I am a servant of God. I am passionate about God. I'm passionate about making a difference in my world, passionate about young people, and also passionate about nation building, passionate about my nation, Nigeria. And one of my aspirations is that in my lifetime, that my nation, Nigeria, will come out of the position where it is right now. And so these are some of the things about me, and this is how I would describe myself, what you didn't find in the profile.
Thank you so much, sir. It's a pleasure. Two things you mentioned, and I'm going to just use that as a starter, is that you're passionate about young people and you're passionate about nation building. Now, I want to just ask, sir, where in your journey, can you just give us a little bit of background on where you're coming from, where you are today?
Without wanting to be dramatic, I would say, or dramatic or exaggerate, I would say I am coming from a dysfunctional background. I'm coming from a highly, highly dysfunctional background. Um, I, I mean, sometimes people say they come from a broken home. I don't think I can consider myself from a broken home because there was no home in the first place.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a situation whereby there was a home and it got broken. That's when you would say that you're from a broken home. But in my own case, I was not planned for. My mom and my dad were never married, so I was had out of wedlock, and they never got together, so to speak. And so I am like the only child of the relationship between my mother and my father. And I have siblings from both sides, which in itself is kind of difficult because you don't have an identity, you don't have a sense of journey and a sense of direction. And I stayed more, I didn't really stay with either of my parents, even though I stayed a little bit more with my mom. I grew up with my great grandma, grew up with great grandma, and had nannies and caregivers around me. So I didn't grow up, experiencing the care of a mother, the care of a father, or having both of them, watching over me and guiding me. And what I think what I miss the most is having a father figure, because the role of a father is really, really, really critical in guiding a child, and especially a male child. And so I didn't have that, and so this pretty much summarizes my background, where I am coming from. And so the effect of that, even growing up into my late teens, was that, I mean, having grown up with grannies and then more with the mother, who really kind of, loved me in her own way, spoiled me in her own way, every opportunity she gets, kind of make me become what I call dysfunctional, in the sense that I was free. I didn't have proper guidance, no accountability structures. And so, yeah, so that's just brought me out from that place where there was no structure, there was no guidance, there was no structural learning to say, okay, these are the values, and this is the person that is responsible, inculcating the right values in a child and all of that. And so this pretty much summarizes my background, where I'm actually coming from. And then where am I now? I would say where I am now is nothing related to where I'm coming from. It's a far cry from where I'm coming from, by the grace of God, a far cry from where I'm coming from. I am now a grown man. I am married. I have children. I am responsible for children now, responsible for a family. I am passionate about helping other young people, making a difference in my world. I have been privileged to do and to be part of landmark projects that has made a difference even in our nation. And I'm still very much active in making my environment a better place, both locally and internationally. And so I would say I have moved, that God has moved me from a dysfunctional background to a man who is making a difference in the world today.
Wow, that's beautiful. Then Sam, that's going to lead me to my next question. So, what would you say are the defining moments you had as a young person? What are those milestones that you could say accumulated into who you are today? Those particular striking things that happened in your journey. that you could call a defining moment for you?
I would say, let me talk about one. There was one profound one that shifted the course of my life, and I think that's the one that's actually worth sharing, because that, like I said, redirected the course of my life. It brought about a shift, and that was what was responsible for the difference between my background, where I am coming from, and where I am today. That's why it's so profound, because it changed the course of my life. And this was when I gave my life to Christ. This was in 2000. And because it was so profound, I can tell you the time, the day. It was on a Monday, the 31st of January, 2000, year 2000. And it was between the hours of 7 and 8 p.m.
Wow.
That was when I gave my life to Christ. And I could remember these details because it was really, really profound. It shifted the direction of my life from, that child and teenager who didn't have a proper, parenting, fatherly protection, fatherly guidance, who was exposed to all manner of social vices, even as a teenager, and who had a lot of negative or more of negative experiences and role models and advices and all of that, to someone who, now understands accountability, understands structure, understands values, love for God, and working in the things of God and living right, And so I would say that was actually a major defining moment for me, because it was able to bring about a shift in the course of my life. And so let me just share this story with us. In my late teens, because I was 19 when I gave my life to Christ. Prior to that particular fateful day when I gave my life to Christ, I had found myself in a campus environment, even though I was not doing a degree program then. I was doing a remedial program on that campus. And so on that campus, I was still very much, living my life the way I wanted. And so I came very close to joining a cult group. As a matter of fact, I did not join the cult group that was on that campus because they were not sophisticated enough for me. That was why I didn't join them. They wanted me to join them because I had a cousin who was in that school, who graduated from that school. Upon hearing that I was in that school, he came down to that school to introduce me to his men that were still on campus, to say, this is my cousin. I want you guys to look after him and all of that, because cultism was really, really, prevalent on that campus. And a couple of times he wanted me to join his cult group. And I kept telling him, I'm not joining your cult group. You guys are not sophisticated enough. All this time, I had information about the different cult groups that we had in Nigeria on our campuses at the time. I knew their names, their emblems, their organizational structure. And this was at 18, 19. I had the organizational structure and already planned the ones that I would join when I get to my main school, my main campus, And so I would go to parties late into the night. Even though I was supposed to be in school, I was not going for classes. I was mixed up with bad guys doing terrible stuff, smoking, drinking. Although I didn't smoke and I didn't drink because those things didn't appeal to me. I've always had a sweet tooth, so those things didn't appeal to me at all. So even while there, God saved me from those things. So I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, but I was heavily embedded in the midst of people that were drinking and smoking and chasing after girls and all of that, smoking weeds, cultists, shooting guns. We'll go for parties where they're shooting guns as a teenager, and all of that, fully embedded in that, not going for classes, even when it was time to write the exam, I couldn't even go to write the exam because there was nothing to write. because there was nothing to go out to write in the exam. So I just left the school, with nothing to show for it, nothing to show for it because of the people I was mixed up with, and it was because I grew up being free, not having those structures around my life. And so I was then looking forward to going into my choice of school, my campus, the campus I wanted to study. And so I came back to Abuja. And then in January, I was invited to a meeting, and it was at that youth meeting that I gave my life to Christ. And at that point, my life changed drastically. And it was that same year that I got admission into the university. And one thing, let me just say this as well, that each time, because even in my university, we still had cultism, and all of that. And a couple of people that I knew, young people that I knew that were on campus, were killed as a result of cult-related activities. And each time that happened, the Holy Spirit will come and said, that could have been you. That could have been you. And I knew it, and I knew it, and I so knew it, that if I had not given my life to Christ when I did, if God had not saved me when he did, I would not be here today. It's something I know, like I know my name. I would not be here today because there was something always about me, though reserved, though not always shouty, but there was always something about me that is, people notice. It's always been there that people just pick me out of the crowd, without me even shouting and being an extrovert and all of that. And even at that, even after I'd given my life to Christ and been on that campus, because of the way I looked, people always come to me and ask me, which cult group do you belong to? And I will tell them I belong to Jesus. I tell them I belong to Jesus. And so they thought and they expected, that I belong to a cult group, even at that. And so you can imagine what would have happened if I had come in without giving my life to Christ and coming into that place, because I would have still been doing what would have exposed me to danger, like going to clubs, going to parties, than doing all of that. Because after I gave my life to Christ, all of that I shut down. No more clubbing, no more partying, no more girls, because these were the vices I had exposed myself to, prior. So all of those things God sees, God took away, and so that then saved me. If not, I would not be here today. I am very sure of what I'm saying, that I would not be here today. I would have been killed.
Hallelujah. That's great. Wow. So, sir, based on all these experiences you've had and your journey as a person, how do you define life to a young person? What's your definition of life?
Okay, this is actually very interesting. From my experience and from my journey, it's not like a very straight definition. So I'm going to use words. There are words that stand out for me in looking at life. One of them is life is a gift. Life is a gift. It's a gift. It's not something that I designed for myself. It's not something that I earned. It was given to me. Life is a gift. Life was given to us, as a gift. It's a gift. And because it's a gift, it is important you know how to treat it. It is important we treat life the way the being that gave life to us will have us treat life. It's very, very, very important. It's very, very important. And that is why, because life is a gift, it is important to discover the purpose of life. Very, 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 because if you don't discover the purpose of life, you will not be able to treat life the way you ought to treat it. And of course, there's a popular saying that when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. And so when you do not know the purpose, when you do not appreciate life as a gift, if you don't see it as a gift, you will not know its purpose. And if you do not know its purpose, abuse is inevitable. And so life is a gift. Another word that helps me understand life that I've seen from my experience is that life is a test. Life is a test. Life is not an end in itself. It's a test. It's like a testing ground for something bigger. It's a testing ground for eternity. It's like, a stopgap between here and now and forever. and eternity. So whatever I do here is a test. There's a record of everything that I do here. Another word, the third word that I use to describe life is that life is an assignment. It's a test, it's also an assignment. So we are here on an assignment, all right? And so we're going to be transitioning. There's going to be a day of reckoning. There's going to be a day of accountability. There's going to be a day when we'll give account of everything that we have done here. So life is a gift, life is a test, and life is an assignment.
As an assignment. Wow. I love those three words. So powerful. Life is a gift, life is a test, and life is an assignment. Beautiful. So it's going to take me to my next question. Now, a lot of young people oftentimes get into this mode of blaming their families, their backgrounds for the outcomes of their life. You hear some young people say, I wish I was my father is Otedola. You would even have, it's so serious these days because even the music that is being played out, the movies and everything, there's a show that there's this pseudo mindset that is created by entertainment that okay, if only you could have it this way, it could have been better. If only you could, your father was Dangote, or if your father was Otedola, or if your father was the president of the country, your life could have turned out, in a better way. What do you say about families? Because I really want to hear from you, because you shared with us your background, where you're coming from. And it's clear that where you are today is nothing like where you're coming from. So what do you say about the place of family? What do you say to young people about their backgrounds, their past, and the place of their family in their journey?
Yeah, I mean, we don't get to choose our families. That's the first thing. We don't get to choose our families. It's still part of the grand design of God, so we just come out and, we come out of a family. And so because we don't get to choose our family, there's very little we can do to put the blame of the outcome of our lives on our families. At the end of the day, we have to assume responsibility for our own lives. And so growing up, even though I went through all of the things I went through, but I remember as a child, there were moments I cried. There were moments I cried because of absence of my father in my life. There were moments I cried because things were tough. Even as a child, I cried. And then as I grew, older, somehow, yes, I was angry. There was anger of, okay, why is my father not there? Why is my father not there? And all of that. I did not, put the blame as I grew older. As a matter of fact, in my early 20s, after maybe as a result of, because I had given my life to Christ at 19. And so in my early 20s, the reality of life started really dawning because at that point I was in the university. I had to become responsible for myself, and things were still tough. Because my father was still not really there for me. And so I had to, with the support from my mom as much as possible, I had to, see myself through school and all of that. And the support from family members here and there. And so going through all of that, after I become aware, self-aware and growing up, I didn't put the blame on my family. But one thing I always do, what I was doing at the time was I was putting putting the blame on God, sort of, and so I would ask questions like, God, why me? I always was asking that question, why me? Why is it that to pay my school fees, it's always a headache? Why is it that when it's time for a new session, I will have to pay fees? It always comes with struggle. I will have to be calling here, calling there. My mom also making effort because business was no longer going as good. When things were good for her, she spoiled me to bits because I was her favorite and all of that. but at this point, business was no longer going well for her, So I would ask God, why me? I had friends who were from, functional families and, who didn't have to worry about food, who didn't have to worry about textbooks, who didn't have to worry about school fees. I worried about everything. I worried about, about feeding, worried about school fees, worried about textbooks, worried about, the things that I need as a normal functioning child, growing up, young adult, and so I always ask God, why me? Why me? Why do I have to struggle for things? Why do I have to struggle for things? And so I didn't put it on my family at all. It was more like, why me? Because I was just putting it on God. And so I did that for a couple of years. And I think it was in my 200 level that, God came and rebuked me. And he said, why not you? Or why not you? And it schooled me, and it took me into the back end why, he designed my process the way he designed it for me.
Wow.
And at that point, I realized that I would not turn out the way he would have me turned out if he did not remove all of those things in the natural that I would have held on to. I realized that I would have really, really, really been very, very spoiled if I had everything that I needed. I realized that trajectory would not have been good for me, And another thing that experience also did for me is that it helped me at that even tender age in early 20s to look away from human sources, including my father, who was alive at the time, who had the means at the time, but just did not care enough, And so I was able to look away from human sources, look away from my father, and then put my focus on God as my primary source. So I learned a lesson. That in itself taught me a lesson. And I want to say this to young people, that it doesn't matter what your background is like. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't matter the conditions that surround you right now. What you need to do is to be able to make sense of them. And the way to make sense of them is in God, because God created you. He fashioned your life. He designed the course of your life. If you can find yourself in God, you'll be able to make sense of your process. It will make sense to you. It will make sense to you. You will know why you are not like every other child or every other teenager or every other young man, every other young woman. You will know that your life is unique. Your process is unique. So that's what I learned, because God interjected and said, Fred, you are asking a stupid question, because it was like he had been putting up with me asking why me, why me, why me, why me. So he just came abrupt and said, why not you? And then it took me behind the scene and showed me why I had to go through what I was going through. And so I really didn't have to blame my parent. And so young people, you can't put it on your parents. You can't put it on your background. And I want to say this. Usually when people look at background, people always look at background from, well-to-do, not well-to-do. It does not matter. It doesn't matter. Well-to-do, well not to do. I mean, we've seen crazy people come out of well-to-do families. We've seen crazy people who are, become terrible, people in society today. And they had everything that they needed. So, and I always tell young people this, your background does not matter. It doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, it's always what you make out of it. For those who had good upbringing and good parentage, growing up, at the end of the day, you will still realize that is what they are able to make out of that support that counts. Is what they themselves are able to make out of it. And then those who didn't have it all good, like myself, is not so much about it as much as what I am able to make out of it. Yeah, that is what counts. That is what counts. It's not the type of family. I know, yes, it has its role and all of that. The same way good, an economically balanced family can be detrimental to the upbringing of a child. It's the same way, a family background that is not there can also be detrimental. It's the same way. So at the end of the day, is what you make out of your life. It's what you are able to make out of it that count. Very, very important. And so lastly, let me just share briefly one of the lessons I learned even before I gave my life to Christ. Because, one of the things it did for me was because I didn't have the support. It kind of, before I gave my life to Christ, it kind of helped me to measure the extent, or to put a cap to the extent of my rascality. Because I always ask myself, if I go and cause trouble, who will I bring the trouble to?
Okay.
So I would say, who will I cause trouble for? There is no father to carry out the trouble and come give. Mother is also doing other things, so she's not really there to say that I'm coming. Is it my great grandmother? I will go and carry the trouble and give. So that in itself kind of just cautioned me, to say, see, don't go and get yourself into trouble that you can't come out of, because you're on your own. You're on your own, so you have to carry it. You're on your own. So that then helped, in a way, helped me not to go overboard. And so I would say your family is not to blame. All right. Yes, I know it can be tough, but it's what you make of that process that counts. And so that process that looks tough, looks like a disadvantage. If you look deeply into it, it's actually what God has designed to make you.
Yeah.
It's what God has designed to make you. Because if I look at my process now, I don't think I would have turned out who I am today if I had it better growing up. I don't think so. If I had it, I had everything. Or, for instance, if my father was in my life because he wanted me to study a particular course, he wanted me to live he would have teleguided my life outside of purpose. I'm serious. I'm not saying that is going to be for everybody. All I'm saying is that all our processes are different. So going back now, looking back, to how he really wanted, because he was not happy that I was more with my mom. He was not happy that I was more with my mom. So that was one of the things that made him not to be interested, And so, he would have wanted to teleguide my life. And he would have done it outside of purpose. So God doing all the things that he did really helped me become the man that I am today. So I want to encourage you, if you look deeply, you would see, that the conditions under which you are growing up, it may not be all rosy, but if you can find God, you will find purpose in it.
Wow, that's so great. I was just getting it, because see, if I love the dimension you put to it, in the sense of asking young people to actually look back to God, because sometimes we get so carried away with where we are that we don't understand that we have an intentional God that actually knows our future. God prides himself in the fact that he knows the end from the beginning, and is able to walk you right from the beginning and walk you to that end. So there's nothing accidental about anybody. There's nothing accidental. God in his own wisdom has crafted it so. And the thing is, like you said, sir, go back to him for the why.
Absolutely.
Where we get missing is, okay, why am I here? Okay, I'm here, I'm not satisfied with where I am. But if you can only know the why will help you to navigate your way to the future.
Absolutely.
And God is the only one that knows the why. Like you said, that you can't choose your own family. You can't choose one thing that you don't have control over. And God has that prerogative of deciding through whom you come. And it's designed for a purpose. It's designed for a purpose. Thank you so much, sir. That's a lot of wisdom in that statement. So, sir, going to the next question now. In your own journey, how did you view mistakes? People make mistakes, for some young people, it could be that they got pregnant while they were young, and that's, just stalled their journey. For some people, they made a mistake that they find it difficult to forgive themselves. They find it difficult to move on away from that mistake. They become entrenched or made that mistake a personality. So in your own view, in your own journey, how did you view mistakes, and what should young people do in their own journey, to be able to handle mistakes?
Yeah, this is actually a great question as well. Mistakes are part of life. Mistakes are inevitable. Like I said earlier on, that life, in addition to being a gift, is a test, is an assignment. In the course of a test, there will be mistakes here and there. In the course of carrying out your assignment, there will be mistakes here and there. And so mistakes are part of life. And so when you make the mistakes, and it doesn't matter the level or how grave the mistakes you have made, it again still comes down to what you are able to make out of that mistake. All right? There is still a blessing in it. And this is not to encourage people to continue to make mistakes, not at all. Now, I want to quickly add this, that even the mistakes and the error you make in your life, God, being an all-knowing God, would have planned it the way how it will suit your life going forward. He will plan it into it. In other words, God has pre-planned our mistakes into our journey of life. He has planned your mistakes into your journey of life. So what that means is that your life does not end at the point of that mistake. Your life does not end. It doesn't matter how grievous that mistake is. Your life does not end. If it does not terminate your life here on earth, I want to say that your life going forward does not end at the point of that mistake, because God is all-knowing. He knew you would make that mistake, and He has made a way of escape. He has planned it as part of your life to still end up in Him. To still end up in Him. So you have to say that even though you have made it, then God is aware. God knew you would make it. And God has planned it as part of how your life will proceed going forward after that point. However, what you then need to do, of course, one is to repent, acknowledge you have made error, all right? And then knowing that, of course, God is redemptive. He's essentially redemptive. He loves us. He's redemptive. That's why Jesus Christ died, all right? So He would always forgive. All right. So once you know that and you go through this whole process, God will then start helping you put your life together on the path that He Himself had designed even before you ever made that mistake. All right. So He will start telling you, okay, now you can move on to the next phase of your life. And then another thing that then also comes out of it is that it will then start showing you lessons learned. You will now be able to see the lessons you have learned, how to avoid similar mistakes, how not to repeat the same mistake. And not only that, you will also be built to also encourage other people and help them not to make the same mistakes. And so that is when we can then say that what the enemy meant for evil, God has turned around. And not only for your good, but for the good of other people that are connected to you. And so you can now share your own stories. You can use it to encourage people, and get people out of it. All right, let me quickly share this particular experience I had not too long ago with us. Hopefully it will help someone. There's a young man, one of my mentees, who had a moment of weakness. Good guy. He loves God. He serves in the community. But he had a moment of weakness. Prior to that time, he was chaste. There was a temptation. He fell into it. It happened just once. He had that premarital sex just once. And that just once resulted into pregnancy. Just that one time. The young man was devastated. As a matter of fact, he was going to take his life. Because he couldn't imagine. He was like, how? How did I find myself here?
Yeah.
How is it that I have kept myself all these years? And just this moment, why did it have to result into pregnancy? He couldn't get it. He was going to take his own life, and so I had to call him over, and the result came after 3 months, of course. That was when it became evident. So I had to take him back to when it happened, asked him if he asked for forgiveness, if he recognized that what he did was wrong, and he said yes. I asked God for forgiveness and all of that, and I assured him that God had truly forgiven him. But he was so devastated that I was still going to take his life. He didn't believe that. So, and I told him, I had to tell him that, you see, the mistake you made, the sin you committed, the error you made was the fornication at the time. And I told him, I said, you see, this child that your error has resulted in is not a mistake. And God even used that to open my eyes to this dimension of truth. And God said to tell him that the child is not a mistake. The child is not a mistake, because no one is born that has not been destined to be born. It doesn't matter how. It doesn't matter how. So I told him, I said, the sin is the mistake, is the error. You have repented, and God said, I am faithful and just to forgive. And I said, he has forgiven you. He said, yes. So you believe he has forgiven you. However, this child that has resulted from that error, is the child itself is not a mistake. So don't go on looking at the child as
a mistake.
It's not. So I have to then use my experience to share with him. I said, can you see, I was not planned for. Would you consider me a mistake now? With what my life is now, would you say my life is a mistake? He said, no. I said, that's it. That the child was not planned for, but an act of sin had resulted into that does not make the child a mistake. So I told him, you have to go on with your life. Your life should not end because of that error, that God has forgiven you. So I had to walk with him over a period, continue to reassure him, continue to encourage him about the love of God, and then tell him that, see, this does not have to end. Your life has not ended. God knew you were going to make this error. And I told him, I said, there are a lot of people who are sleeping around and they never resulted into pregnancy.
Yes.
It never resulted into pregnancy. And because it never resulted into pregnancy, it does not come to limelight that they are sleeping around. So the fact that this has resulted into pregnancy is because God has a purpose for the child. So it doesn't matter how the child comes to be, God has a purpose for the child. So I have to assure him that that is not a mistake. The child is not a mistake. You may not get it now. You may not understand it now. You may not know why God has allowed this act to result into pregnancy. I said, do you know how many people who are legitimately married, who are looking for children, but have not been able to conceive?
Yes. Very true, sir.
So it's not a mistake. When God then said in his plan, and was like, the devil. I said, no, the devil can't give birth to a child. The devil can't create anything. The devil can't cause a child. God said, God designed it again, this purpose, this is what will happen. Because how else can we explain Solomon? Even though Solomon was not the direct, child of the act. Solomon came after the act, after David had married the mother and all of that. But how can you explain that it's from that woman that God will continue, the throne of David? So there's a way God can use even our mistake, to fulfill his purpose.
Sure, sir.
That was David's error. And he got the repercussion for it. He was punished for it. However, God still used it to continue his throne. Because why would Solomon be a son of the woman he took from another man?
Yeah.
So that's to let us know that your life does not end at the point of that mistake.
Yes, sir.
If you continue with God, if you surrender the error to God, if you have repented, God will still use it for the continuance of his purpose in your life.
So true. Thank you so much, sir. That's a lot of wisdom, That's a lot of wisdom. I love that you were able to help us separate the act that needs repentance and forgiveness of God from the actual life and design and purpose of God. That's so important. Your life does not end with a mistake. But if you can submit that mistake to God, God is going to use it in your process to get you to where He wants you to be. Awesome, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm going to go to the next question. There's a lot of moral decadence in our society. Gradually, morals are being, in fact, what was acceptable 10 years ago, is people look at it and it's old school. And somebody was asking, okay, what's the difference between the present generation and the old generation? There's some things that were permitted or morally, it's just reasonable for a young person to live this way. But things are gradually changing. Yes. Morals are, the moral values are being questioned by the next generation. There's a lot of question about why do I have to live like this? Because there's a lot of modeling or they see on music videos, on TV, the entertainment world. There are certain things they model to them. I want to ask you, sir, can you give us a breakdown of what a young person should hold dear as moral values? That, see, 10, 100 generations down the line, these things are evergreen, that every young person must hold dear.
There are quite a number of them. And let me just back up a little bit to say that one of the reasons we have the extent of the moral decadence we have in our world today, there are quite a number of factors responsible for that. There is the failure of family. Because the family institution is where the child is supposed to be nurtured, is where the child is supposed to be introduced to these values. Right? But because the family is failing as a breakdown of family life as designed by God, that's why God would say, I know my servant, I think it was referring to Abraham. Was it Abraham that I was referring to? And that I know him, that he will instruct
his children after me.
Yes, and so and again, God was talking to Moses, and when he was giving the law, and he kept telling them, he said, make sure you teach this to your children, make sure you remind them, make sure, and that is why you would see, even among the Jews, even the Israelites of today, some of them still carry that tradition that by age 5, the average Jewish child is able to recite the entire Torah. By age 12, they understand the entire law. But I think by age 16, they were required to be able to keep the entire Torah. So it comes from that family background, that parent, taking responsibility to inculcate those values in their children. But because that is falling apart, and that is why you would see, like you said, it's so rampant today because it seems to be getting worse. It's getting worse. Certain things you would hear 10, 20 years ago that would jar you, that will today, those things have become the norm. They no longer make people squeeze and want to shiver anymore, because they have become commonplace. So that is to tell us that these things are, falling. And of course, like you also said, we now have new cultures, the pop culture, media and entertainment is now, parents have now left, their children to TV, to entertainment, to pop culture and all of that. And pop culture, as well, is also getting worse, because if you look at even the oldies, in terms of music that our parents danced to, that were not even gospel, they were not as obscene.
Yes.
They are not as obscene and vulgar. They're not as obscene and vulgar. So today, pop culture is promoting nudity, promoting Yahoo, promoting get rich quick syndrome, promoting wrong values. And they are normal, they are on radio, they are on TV, portraying our female folk as sex objects, and as commodities. And, it's so sad. I wrote an article a couple of months ago about how pop culture is also contributing to the rape culture in our society.
True, sir. Very true.
Because when you portray women as being object to satisfy the urges of men, and you think crazy people have lost their mind. I'm not saying it is an excuse and a justification, but I'm saying that it's a contributing factor.
Yes.
It's a contributing factor. And so it's really sad. So if we're now to go to what are those moral values that young people must embrace, and I want to say this, that those of us who are living at the end of time, young people are living at the end of time. I had this conversation with my family this morning, that we have to do a lot of work, because we have to swim against the current. You have to be the exception. You have to be the exception, and you have to do everything you need to do to be the exception. Because another thing that is really sad today is even among believers, young people who are believers, they seem to be taking their cue from the world. And so they say things like, it is not as bad as this person. I am not as bad as this. So when did we start taking our cues from the world? When did we start taking our cues from unbelievers? And so because they are doing milder version of what the world is doing, they think they are justified.
Okay.
And they give themselves a pat in the back. I am not that bad. All I'm doing is this. All I'm doing is that. I'm not going the extreme. It's still bad. And so I just want to quickly put that out there for young people to say, see, don't do the milder version of what other people are doing. And we have to be ready to swim against the current. Now, what are those? And there are quite many, but I'm just going to name a few of them. Chastity, for instance. Chastity, for instance. Back in the day, women and men were expected to get married as virgins. Chastity is a virtue. Chastity is one of those moral values that we must reclaim, that we have to reclaim. As a matter of fact, it's actually one of those things that was embedded even in culture and tradition. It's one of those positives. Of course, there were a lot of crazy things even in culture and tradition, but even culture and tradition recognize that. So we need to reclaim that. That is very, very important. Chastity. And I want to say to you, if you're watching this or you're listening to this, and maybe you've lost your virginity and you're no longer as that, but you can still reclaim your chastity. You can still reclaim your purity. All you have to do is to determine that from today going forward, I'm going to keep my body. I'm going to remain pure. So that is very, very, very important. It's one of those core values that we have to hold on to. Others are integrity, letting your yes be yes, and being consistent at being good, being consistent at being honest. Integrity is not integrity if it is not consistent. Everybody has a measure of good in them. Everybody has a measure of God in them, but you have to be consistent with it. You are a man and a woman of integrity when your honesty is consistent. That's when you can say you're holding on to integrity. So it's not doing good today and then doing bad for the most of the remaining days of the week, and then you not do good. No, that does not make you a man of integrity. A man and a woman of integrity is someone who is truthful consistently. So integrity is another value that we need. We need back. Another one that is also very, very important that I've always shared with young people is accountability. Accountability, because we are in an era now where people do not want to be accountable. Young people don't want to be accountable. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to do what they like and all of that. Accountability is another important one that you must hold dear. That's one of the things that has really helped me. Accountability. Be accountable to people around you. Be intentional with putting accountability structures around you. Even if you are free, there's this saying that we have in our community that if God gives you freedom, by yourself, put yourself in jail and throw the key away. If God tells you are free, by yourself, put yourself in jail and throw the key away. Choose to be accountable. Choose to be accountable. So we have chastity, we have integrity, we have transparent honesty, we have accountability. All of these values, they make us humans. They don't make you religious. They make us God. That's the design of God for humanity. That's the design of God. So you're not doing it. It's not a big deal. But unfortunately, it has become a big deal in our world because we are scarce.
They're scarce.
It only makes you a normal human being. Being disciplined is another value. Being disciplined makes you a normal human being. Being disciplined in the society, being of good character and conduct. It does not make you religious. It makes you a normal human. Hard work is another. It does not make you religious. It makes you a normal human being. That's how God intended life for us. All right. So hard work is another. Discipline is another. And these are values that are now missing in our world. And I want to say this, that everything that we see in the world today, and particularly in our nation, is as a result of the falling away of these values. That is it.
Yes,
that is it. Contentment. Another one that is also very, very important is the principle of otherness. Not just thinking about yourself. And I want to say this to believers, because I know a lot of people that will be watching this are going to be young believers, but I know others as well will watch and listen to this and benefit. But I want to say that the core principle of the cross of Jesus Christ is the principle of otherness. Jesus Christ didn't die for himself. He died for us. There's so much corruption and everything in our governance system today because people are no longer thinking about the next person. Leaders go there, they don't think about, how can I make my society better? How can I make my constituents, the life of my constituents better? They only think about themselves. This is another value that is completely off. So I tell my people in our church, I tell them every day you wake up, yes, you are going to work, yes, you are going to your place of business. Don't just go because you want to go and earn money for yourself. Go thinking, how can I make a difference in someone's life? How can I make a difference today? How can I contribute to the betterment of my society? How can I ensure I am not part of the problem in the country? And I tell people that the minimum you can do for Nigeria is not to be part of the problem. Even if you can't be part of the solution. Even if you can't do the heavy lifting to make Nigeria a better place, can you not just please contribute to the problem? Can it be as basic as not littering the ground? Can it be as basic as you have a refuse in your hand, you put it in your car, you put it in your bag until you get to the next refuse dump? Can it be as basic as when it is red, when the light is red, you stop? Can it be as basic that when you see that the traffic is about to get jammed, you allow some people to move? Can it be as basic as you see an old woman or even a young person who is trying to come from a feeder road into the main road, your humanity rises and you stop and you allow the person go? Can we start deriving pleasure in, and when we make other people smile? These are values we have to bring back.
Yes,
and not just make it about ourselves. So, not caring about the next person. The danger of that is what we experience in Nigeria today. Now, nobody is safe. Because the money, the resources that we're supposed to use to send people to school, send young people to school, build schools, we ate the money. Some people ate the money. Now, the people we have refused to train and to educate, they have become menace to the society. They themselves, the leaders, they are not safe.
They are not safe, it's true.
So at the end of the day, not living by these good morals, they have such a wide implication that goes beyond the individual, goes beyond family, goes beyond even the generation.
True, sir.
So you guys, we all need to know that generations after us will feel the impact of the way we have chosen to live today. It goes beyond us. It goes beyond us.
It goes beyond us.
Yes, we need to reframe these values.
Yes. Wow. And that's why we're doing this, because it's important, one of the things that is so dear to our hearts in Flickers Global Foundation is value reorientation. We need to reorientate
Yeah.
young people about these values that are important. When you were speaking, one of the things that came to my mind is Nigeria used to be a community. It was not just a nation. Nigeria was a community where every young person is raised by a community. It's not just a family. The nation was a family and a community where you see somebody else, doing something, and you're able to correct another person's child and say, no, that's not how to do it. This is and you leave your home, your parents telling you, remember the son or the daughter of who you are.
Absolutely.
But it looks as if all those values and all those communal affiliation that we had with each other gradually gave way, and we're now so selfish. We're now so focused on ourselves, focused on our little spaces, just me, myself, and I and my family. And we're no longer doing what it takes, because when you kept repeating, it's not just about us. These values are not just about us, it's about generations.
Yes.
However we choose to live today has ripple effects on generations. Yes. So whatever we choose to give today to the next generation will affect the generation coming after them.
Yes.
So we have to be intentional about how we're living our lives today.
Yes.
Absolutely. We have to be intentional. Thank you so much, sir. That really got to me, because it's one of the things that I believe so dearly in, that in nation building, we need to go back to the family values, go back to the communal values. People need to start living back as a community. We need to start giving back. We need to start looking at how to truly care for each other.
Absolutely.
How to truly care for each other.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, sir. That's going to lead me to the second to the last question we have for you today. It's been an exciting one. A lot of wisdom is being shared with us today. I want to just speak to this rich quick scheme. A lot of messages going out about making money. However you make it, irrespective, young people just want to have money. They want to be men and women of substance, in quotes, that money is the only thing that gives it to them, and they want to be able to live the kind of life they want, the luxury and everything they want to live their lives the way they want, have money to spend. What do you speak to this mindset, among young people, and what can we do about it?
For young people listening to this, let me say this. A couple of months ago, I became 40. And so I've been here for 4 decades now. Let me save you the trouble. Money does not satisfy. Money does not give fulfillment. There is a false sense that when I have money, I have everything. It's a false belief system. Money does not satisfy. Money does not guarantee joy, does not guarantee fulfillment. It may give you momentary high, momentary joy, whatever it gives is momentary. It doesn't. So let me just put that, so that you can just relax. Money will not solve all your problems. Money will not solve all your problems. I know a lot of people who have money today, but they have issues in their lives that money cannot solve. They have the money, but the problems are there. COVID-19 has shown us that there are lessons to learn in that. You can imagine the rich countries of the world. They have the money, they have the healthcare system, but you can see people dying in their numbers in those places. So these are indicators that money is not everything. But again, do we have to work for it? Yes. We have to work for it. So life itself is not about money, because life does not consist of the abundance of what a man possesses.
Yes.
All right. So having said that, yes, we have to work to be successful. We have to work to make impact. We need money to live life. But money is not an end in itself. Those who are chasing money, who have this get rich quick mentality, is because they see money as an end in itself. It is not. Money is a tool. And so if you see money as a tool and not an end in itself, you will not chase it the way you are chasing it. You will not chase it wrongly. You know, you don't want to grab it like that and do everything that is possible, all means possible to get it. You will not. Money is not an end in itself. You will have it. There are a lot of people who have it and who are still miserable. Money is a tool. Another thing I want to say again, thirdly, is that money, the process of making money in itself is part of life. That process in itself is part of life. It's part, is going through the process the right way is part of you living life. It's part of you living life. And that is why I always say this, that if you look around, a lot of big people that we have who have money in Nigeria, if they don't go public, it's either they go public with their businesses, or their businesses will not survive second generation after them. The reason is this: most of them do not inculcate in their children the discipline they had to make money. So because the discipline they had that helped them make the money has not been passed down to the next generation, to their children will not be able to multiply the wealth. So they just come to spend. The only way these businesses will continue after that is if they go public. Like Dango to go public. If he does not go public and he wants his children to continue, if he had not inculcated the same discipline that produced the money, the children will not be able to multiply the money. All right. So I want to encourage every young, don't get rich quick. Is not the solution. You will get it and still be miserable. Some people have gotten it, they are in jail. Some people have gotten it, they have died. Some people, because they have chased it so vehemently, they have chased money into their death. Some people have chased money into their death. Some people have chased it into prison. They have chased it into prison. They have chased it. It's like it's luring. You have it, they end up in jail. Some people, they end up 6 feet under. 6 feet under. And so that is not the way to go. That is not the way to go. Go through the discipline. Go through the process. Go through it. If you go through it the right way, you will be able to multiply it. The wealth that is made in the wrong way is not sustainable. Go ask the hush puppies of this world. It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because you will not be able to multiply it. But everyone who has gone through becoming successful the right way, that process in itself makes you. It refines you. It makes you. Do you think today, if Dangote or other rich people that we have around us who have worked hard for their money, if they lose everything today, you think they can replicate it? They can replicate it. You know why? Because the wealth is not in the liquidity. The wealth is in the quality of who they have become. In the process
yes, sir.
If you make money the right way, you realize that your wealth will not be in your liquidity. Your wealth will be in the quality of the person you have become in the process of making the money.
Yes, sir.
And so you can then replicate it again. And so even if economy, stocks crash, economy of nations crash, global economy crash, because you are wealthy in you, because of the process you have gone through, you've not gone through the rich, get rich. The people who go through that process of get rich quick, they don't master anything. They don't master anything because you have gone through the discipline. You have built, so you are the wealthy one. You are the one that is wealthy. Your wealth is not in your liquidation. It's not in the liquid cash that you have. It's in the fact that you can replicate it. You know the values and the principles you have learned to build that wealth again. Even
Wow.
if maybe natural disasters, economic situations, extraneous factors that are not under your control, they come together and they crashed all of those things that you have built. Because you are the wealth, you will build it again. But if you've gone through the get rich quick route, if you are caught, EFCC catches you and you are stripped of those things, you will go back to ground zero. Some people even minus, and you will not be able to continue. So that you should have at the back of your mind.
Wow, that's wisdom. That's wisdom. Money is a tool, and you have to become the wealthy one. It has to. You can't give what you don't have. You have to become the wealthy one. You reproduce it. Thank you so much, sir. That's a lot of wisdom. And our last question for you this morning is that, sir, we want you to share, how has education shaped your life? What has education done for you, in your view? Educating your mind, being educated, what does it mean? And how has it changed your life or shaped your life?
I mean, in so many ways. It helps me because education is continuous. So we are still in that process of learning. It has helped me know myself. It has helped me become self-aware. Secondly, it has helped me know my world. It has given me an understanding of my society, of my world. It has helped me know how to interact with people in my world. It has helped me know how to interact with people, how to relate with people. It has helped me know how to be a human, an effective, and a productive member of society. It has helped me, be a productive member of society. It has helped me know how to contribute to making my society better. It has equipped me to know how to contribute to making my society better. It has also helped me to know how to be successful, and how to live a life of impact, how to make a difference. And this and many more I have gained from education. And education is something you have to continue to acquire. You have to continue to acquire, apart from the basic, as much as you can from your high school. If you can proceed, to higher learning. Even after higher learning, there are certifications to get. Now education does not even have to be expensive now. You can teach yourself certain things. You can acquire skills online. Google, YouTube, these platforms have become the biggest, institutions of learning in the world today. And so continually educating yourself and building yourself is very, very important, because the more you build yourself, the more you educate yourself, the more functional you become. Now, if you look around us now, I mean, man has over time gained increased mastery of his environment, largely by the virtue of education. All the inventions that you have, ease of doing business, ease of communication, ease of transaction, ease of transportation, everything underlining that is education. All right, so it will help you to increase your mastery of life and of your environment. So the value of education cannot be overstated.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time sharing this. I think it's over 1 hour. We've been having this conversation now with you, Mr. Frederick Adetiba. Thank you so much for sharing your life, your triumphs, and the lessons that you've gleaned in your journey with us on Silent Generals. The conversation today has been based on, encouraging young people. You've heard from him. Is where he is today is You can't connect it to his past, but his past was a necessary process that God used to accumulate into where he is today. So wherever you find yourself, please, Mr. Frederick Adetiba is an inspiring story. We bring people your way that would inspire you, not just inspire you, that you can also follow them and they can mentor and coach you. You know, Apostle Paul said, imitate me as I imitate Christ. You know, there's a place of following men. You know, it helps you gain perspective, see what is possible. Sometimes you sit in your little corner and you think that life is what you're going through is peculiar to you. People have gone on this journey, and these are their triumphs. These are their stories they have shared with us today, so that you know that you are not alone on this journey. Yeah. We are all on this journey together. We can help each other by learning from each other as we go along in our journey. Thank you so much, sir, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We truly appreciate you, and we are honored to have you with us on the Conversations and Silent Generals on this edition. Please, our warm regards to Lady Kems. Thank you so much for making you available to us this morning. And our love to Jason and Jadel. Thank you so much. So we'll come again your way next time in Silent Generals. I'm Lara Adetiba, signing off on behalf of Flickers of Foundation. Thank you.